Good morning everybody, Calm Biker here on a rather salty Sunday morning, but it's lovely weather, so I thought I'd get the bike out. I've just washed the salt off afterwards, and when I pulled the bike out I realised that there must have been salt somewhere on my last ride, because my bike was already covered in salt, which isn't good. Luckily it is also coated in ACF50. My front brake disc did look a bit worse for wear though, was a bit brown and crusty with the salt. Although that's easily rectified with the application of the front brake. Out today to do some lanes, bit of my lanes challenge stuff. And I've got behind me Chris on his CB500X, which is a tough machine. He managed to drop it twice the other day after getting a puncture. Dropped it once on both sides, very unfortunate. But he's pretty much got away with it. Just a few little scratches on his crash bars and on the plastic handguards. So yeah, not too bad at all considering when I crashed my Z1000, well I didn't crash, when I dropped my Z1000 SX, I had over £1,000 worth of damage just by dropping it at the side of the road. So yeah, definitely it's a tough old machine, or actually new machine. And behind Chris got Graham on the mighty CL500. I can only think now he's called it the mighty CL. That's all I can think of is the mighty CL500. Yeah, and we're going to do a few lanes together. I actually thought Graham would come on the monkey because we're only doing lanes, so we don't need to go quick, but he's decided on the CL, maybe because of the salt. It's the Honda CL that I'd like to talk about today, or rather that class of bike, the A2 class, the class that includes Graham's CL and it includes this CB500X and quite a lot of other bikes that tend to be in the 400 or 500 cc range, certainly above 125. Because the A2 class is things that are above 125, but things that are 47 horsepower or less, and also have a limited power to weight ratio, designed for people who are a little bit younger than the age you need to be to do the A licence, or for people who just don't want or need a screaming 1000cc 150 horsepower bike. And the CL500 is a very good example of that style of motorbike. It's same power as this, same engine as this, and similar in principle, even though it's a different shape and a different style, that it's a kind of do anything bike. You can have it as a commuter. I've shown you before this bike achieving, with great care, 100 miles to the gallon, so great for commuting, great for distance, comfortable. And also, I was going to say cheaper, but I don't mean cheaper, I mean more inexpensive or less expensive than the way bikes are going nowadays, because there's a lot of bikes that are in the £15,000 and above category now, which is an awful lot of money to pay for a motorbike that in many cases is just for a hobby. But these things tend to be a lot cheaper. I can't remember what I paid for this now, but it was around about £5,500, something in that range. And brand new, these bikes are kind of £6,000 or £7,000 for these type of machines. I'm not sure if I've just missed a corner by talking and having reflections from the sun and whatnot on my visor. Oh well, it'll find me another route if I have. And I haven't done this road before, so all is good. Now when you look at the reviews of these bikes, generally they're incredibly positive, because they are that do anything machine at a good value, and just really good fun. I love riding this thing. I think it's a wonderful thing to ride. I know Graham's really loving his 500 as well. I think the only one out of the three of us who's been looking at other bikes has been Chris. He's been looking at GS's, so you know, that's a completely different type of machine altogether, isn't it? But yeah, they just generally get really, really positive write-ups. But there is one thing that I see occasionally in comments and occasionally in reviews, and that's people talking about them not having enough power, which is quite interesting because it leads to people asking me questions like, will this bike cruise on a motorway okay, or is it running out of guts? To which I say, it's not a 125. It'll cruise at 80 miles an hour if you wanted to. Obviously I wouldn't. It'll cruise at exactly 70 miles an hour all day with no problems whatsoever. You'll lose a bit of fuel economy. You'll no longer get that 100 miles to the gallon, or more like what I'm getting in a minute. 89.9 is my current average. Yeah, when you're on a motorway that tends to drop to the mid-70s, so you lose that part, but it will happily cruise at that kind of speed all day without putting any strain on the engine or anything like that. But the other thing some people say, and rarely, but I have seen it said a couple of times, is that it doesn't have enough power to actually be fun or exciting or dangerous, or you know, whatever other word you want to insert in there, but you kind of get my gist, I hope. I thought, well, how can that be, really? And this makes me think back to the 60s. I can't remember the 60s, I wasn't born until the 70s, but obviously I know the stories, and I've watched Quadrophenia many times, which is all the education you need. But looking back at what happened in the 60s with motorcycling, and the cafe racer concept that kind of appeared then around the Ace Cafe and other cafes, the ton-up boys. This was the idea that you had these growling, fire-breathing motorcycles. Am I turning right here? I am turning right here. Fire-breathing, scary, dangerous, terrifying motorcycles from these people, the rockers, who would ride them, and they were called the ton-up boys because they would ride them to try and get to 100 miles an hour on their motorbike. And that was seen as absolutely crazy. 100 miles an hour, wow, what a speed. Obviously entirely illegal as well. But this bike will easily do 100 miles an hour. Graham's bike will easily do 100 miles an hour. So what changed? Why is it that now a 500cc 47 horsepower bike that will easily do 100 miles an hour is seen as tame? But in the 1960s, when granted the suspension and the tyres and all that kind of thing would not have been as good, but we're talking about going in straight lines here. But in the 1960s, that would have been seen as insane. A lot of these cafe racers were not even 500cc, they'd be 350s and even less than that. And they would be screaming, absolutely thrashing them to within an inch of the engine's life to do 100 miles an hour. And that was seen as incredibly exciting. And then some people now see these things as boring. So what happened there then? I suspect that what really happened there is marketing and bravado. Although if you're one of the people who says this would be a terrible bike, this or Graham's or any of the A2L would be a terrible bike because it hasn't got, you know, over 100 horsepower, please explain, you know, any difference to that. But I think marketing and bravado, I think we've been conditioned with bikes growing in size and power and top speed and acceleration, and then the bravado that always comes with that, because, you know, we are men, and especially the younger we are, the more bravado we have around these things. But I think we've been conditioned over the last, I mean, it is 65 years now since the beginning of the 60s, to think that it has to be bigger, it has to be better, it has to be faster, it has to be faster than the last bike you had, it has to be faster than your friend's bike, so they then have to get a new bike when you do because theirs has to be faster than yours. And in amongst that, I think a lot of the joy of actually just going out and riding the bike and seeing the countryside has probably been lost. I've ridden with people who've gone to somewhere completely new to them and completely new to me, and they've picked out the area because of its beauty as well as its roads, and then they've wanted to ride through it as fast as they possibly can, meaning they're using 100% concentration just to keep the bike on the road, and they miss seeing this place that they've gone to. Can you imagine that, going to a brand new place, you get home and you know, you go home to your family and they say to you, oh, what was that place like? And you say, oh, do you know what, I don't actually know, so I shot through it as fast as I could. I have no idea what the place itself is actually like. That seems very, very odd to me indeed. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's completely different and there's something I'm missing. But if there is, I don't care, because I love this bike and I'm going to carry on enjoying it and pulling around these lanes and seeing these sights. Kite, I think, above us, or oh no, it's the other one. I can't remember the name of it. Buzzard. So I'm going to carry on seeing the sights, seeing the scenery, the architecture and the wildlife at quite slow speeds, because there's an incredible amount of enjoyment to be taken from it. Of course, I say this from the point of view of somebody who does have a 150 horsepower naked bike at home that that I really do enjoy. But I enjoy that at quicker speeds, generally on roads I know, and at slower speeds on roads I don't, so I can take in the sights and the sounds and the smells. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to enjoy enjoy the rest of this ride, and I'm also going to try and make sure that I follow this sat nav properly, because I think it's going to get complicated shortly. So thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening to my inane drivel. Ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.